We're going to go over some of the basic embroidery edit functions today. We will add more and more as we go along. But one thing I want to show you here, first, these are all categories. And in your categories, you have files. And then down in the files, you have your design. I'm going to select this very large deer. Nothing is really set that I'm going to embroider that design until I touch set. I'm just looking at it now. One thing too on this screen, if you open up this up arrow, you can see more pictures at once. And then you just want to click it down to show what you've selected right now. Across the top, it has the 100%, or I can magnify. It's telling me which hoop this will fit in, the size of this design, how many thread changes and how many minutes are involved. And I is for information. So if I click on the information, I get more information about this design, and it actually shows me the thread list. So I could go pull all these threads and have them lined up and ready to go. If I can't see some detail on a design and I want to look at it a little differently, I can click on the square right here, and that changes the background color to a black. You can change it back to white. All right. And when we talk about minutes on this machine, we're talking actual stitching time. That number doesn't include if you have to change threads or you're doing an applique and have to trim. It's actual sewing time. So now I'm going to go back and I want to get a little bit nicer, cuter design to use, and I'm going to go to my category 13. It's a little bluebird. And I'm going to scroll way up to get to design 48. Now, it just went right over the deer because I hadn't told it set, so it let me choose something else. Now I'm going to say set. When we get on the editing screen across the top, you have a zoom. You have a hand that will let you pan around the design. Okay, see, now I can move the design wherever I want to see it. And I'll take the hand off. And then this is showing me what size hoop it'll stitch in. So this is the size of the design right now. Whatever's in red, that would be the size right there. Here's a camera, and on the camera, this is what we can take pictures of our fabric. And then this is your preview hoop. It's across the top and preview. So you touch, magnify, and those are actual stitches. It's not a colored picture or anything, it's actual stitches. Across the bottom, it's letting me know how it would sit in each hoop. Okay, so it would fit in my 4x4. I just click back to my 5x7. This is a stitch simulator. Pick out how fast you want the simulator to stitch, and then touch the arrow to the right, and it will actually stitch out the design. So we're going to say close. I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to edit. Now in edit, you have size, move, rotate, flip, copy, or color palette, applique, color palette, stippling, and the flower to make different. So we're going to touch stippling. And there's your basic stippling design. You can pick out what hoop size you want up here, and it will make the stippling appropriate to the hoop size you've selected. Down here, you can make a margin or a border around your design so that your stippling isn't so close to the design. Down here, the spacing all has to do with the size of the stippling, and that's simply a matter of choice. Now, if I didn't want stippling and I wanted to use my echo, that's up here in this blue flower with the lines around it. Now it has an echo stitch. The settings that I chose for stippling will be applied to the echo stitch. I'm going to go back to stippling though, because I don't want anything on the screen right now. And I'm going to say cancel. Okay, so what if we had two of these designs on the screen? I'm going to copy, and I'm going to move one away, and I actually can rotate it so it goes in the corner. So I'll move kind of up and like a frame. Say, okay, what if I wanted stippling all around this? So I can touch my stippling icon. It's only going to put the stippling around what design had the red box around it that it was selected. So there's a way to get around it. So I'm going to touch cancel. Down here, these have to do with grouping. The reason it looks like this with the square not in the red, because it's showing you I can group the circle and the triangle and leave the square unaffected. It doesn't matter where you touch that button there, it's all one thing. So now I click on that, and here I can select what parts I want, but I want all of it, so I'm going to select them both. Then say OK. And then I'm going to come to my final grouping icon. All right, so if I wanted to move it now, everything would move at once. But now I'm going to come back to stippling, and it will stipple around each design. Okay, I'm going to hit cancel so we can go back. Let's go to, I'm going to hit our undo, which is new on the Luminaire compared to the Dream or Destiny. I'm going to delete one of the patterns. So we have one pattern here. Okay. What if you want to make this into an applique? See the blue shield here? That will automatically make any design into an applique. Any design you bring in, even Disney, design you created yourself, it doesn't matter. It will turn them all into an applique. And there again, it's asking you the distance around your design before you want the satin stitch. So what this will do, it's more, to me, it's more like a patch. If I go into embroidery, you'll see what I'm talking about. If I go into embroidery, now here's my applique. I'm going to come down here to where you can tell it to advance to different colors. But I want you to see the steps. See, that's the first step, then the green, then the gray, and then, okay, so this is your first outline. You see a pair of scissors? That means after you sew that with this stitch, you're going to take your hoop and trim away the design following that line. After you do that, you're going to take the piece that you cut out and put it down on the hoop on the garment or whatever you have in there that you want to sew this on, and this will tack it down. It's the same exact line that you trimmed out. After you put that one down, the next stitch will be the satin stitch, and that will tack it all in place. It's really actually nicer than doing a regular applique, especially if you're doing it on a jacket back, because the only thing you're going to see inside is going to be the stitches of the satin stitch. You're not going to see all the design stitches. Okay. Okay. Let's go and get a Mickey or Minnie for now. See, set. Okay. We're going to come back to edit. And you saw the stippling. What if I want to put a design, a different outline or fill stitch around that rather than stippling? I'm going to choose this little blue flower, and that's just showing me an outline. So it's going to take an outline of Minnie. So I'm going to touch that. I can put a margin around her. Down here it says memory. It's telling me now we're going to recall it from my Design Center stamp pattern list. Say OK. We're going to go add. We have to go into my Design Center, and it told it was in this folder, the same icon. So we're going to touch that. Across the top you'll see the same flower. And we'll take our little Minnie Mouse. Say OK. Now we're going to come over. This is your fill stitches. These are outlines and running stitches, and these are all different fill stitches. I'm going to come to the Properties tab, and this one, first one, is just a regular fill stitch. Then another stippling stitch. If you select the last one and go to Select, you have 30 choices of different fill stitches you can use. Okay. And there's some really, really pretty patterns in here. Just a side note on seeing these because I'm just thinking about it right now. Pattern number 3, no matter what you put it in, that little center spokey flower will always be exactly centered. So I was doing a design center color book thing, and I needed to do some peppermint candies, and they were very small, maybe 1 inch around. So I put this fill stitch so all the spokes just came on it, and that's all you saw. You didn't see any of the rest. It was really quite nice. I mean, it was really good. Okay, let's take number 8, the bricks, and say okay. Now, it's already selected red. We told it what we want to use, so we're going to say okay. One very, very important thing is the paintbrush is selected. If I leave it that way, all it's going to do is make dots. Okay? That's all it does. It actually gives you a choice of how big your dots want, and it's just a paintbrush. If we take the bucket for flood fill, we can click anywhere outside our design and it fills the whole area. If you would have this for real in here and you really wanted to work on it, you could put it in memory and bring it back up later. Let's go to next. On the next screen, it's some editing. So it's showing me that my bricks are selected right now because that's the only thing on there. And now it says what size do you want the bricks. So I can make them smaller or larger, and it should depend on your design size. Then this is the direction. I like to change the direction just to show that it has changed. On a Dream or Destiny machine, this was always set to on. And what it is, it's going to do an outline stitch around your pattern. But if you put the outline stitch on, it's like a bean stitch or triple stitch, and you don't catch it in your seam of your block if you're doing a quilt, well, it's just there. I usually tell quilters, if you're going to use this for a block, turn that bean stitch off. And on the Luminaire, they've left it off as default. This one just kind of makes, it says random shift, and it kind of just distorts the look. So we'll say okay. And then this one is if you want to change the positions. It doesn't show too much if you have the random shift already on, but we'll set some and say okay. Another nice thing the Luminaire added that wasn't in the Dream or Destiny is your choice. Do you want it to just sew like once around, or do you want it to do like a bean or triple stitch? It's your choice. Say okay. Now, if you put this in memory here, it's going to save it in Design Center and in the embroidery folder. Once you put it in memory in this one, you can't go back and edit it. That's why I said put it in the memory on the previous screen. So now we'll go set and tell it that's the design we want. And we'll say okay. And there it is, all ready to go. The same thing here though. What would happen? How would I do it if I had 2 designs I wanted it around? Let's undo that. So I'm going to have her here. I'm going to go to edit. And I'm going to go copy. I'm going to take one of those and put it up here. Okay. Now, if I go to do my fill stitch in Design Center, it's only going to put it around the one that's selected. So what I tried to do, and it worked quite well, I went ahead and put this one in memory, in the patterns, said okay. Then I select this one and go and put it in my border patterns, in memory, okay. Now if I go to add, and I go to my Design Center, and I go to where they told me they are, same flower across the top, let you know where they are. I'm going to take the first one and say okay. And it's in the position where I had it on the embroidery screen. But now I'm going to go back to my pattern list, go to the same flower, get the second one, and say okay. Now if I go through and get my stipple stitch or whatever kind of stitch I want to use here. I'll select something different this time. A basket stitch. We'll say OK, and OK again. And now when I do it, it's around both. So that's how you would do it for 2. And move them into position you want, and then you can come back in here and get them stippled or pattern all around them. So I'm going to say next. And I'm going to say set. Say OK. And then we're going to undo. All right. I'm going to come up to edit, and I'm going to go ahead and add another mini. So I have 3 minis on here. Now you don't want them overlapping, but sometimes you'll find this quite useful. And now we're going to come down, we're going to tell it to select them, all of them. Say OK. Now I have an alignment tool. This is new on the Luminaire. So if I select my alignment tool, come down to the bottom center, left side one, it centers them all. Isn't that nice? And say OK. I'm going to go undo and undo again. And let's go ahead and undo again. I can undo all the times I did. Take one away. Let's put one up here. All right, so let's say I want to add some lettering. So I'm going to go to add. I'm going to go into my fonts. I'm going to pick out a font I like. Now, please, 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 do not choose 50 or 51. I'm going to choose 50 to show you what it is, and I'm going to take a capital A. Can you see it on the screen on Mini? Probably not, because it's less than it's an 1/8 inch high. The font number 50 and 51 are for using them for the cuffs on men's dress shirts or collar tips. They're for monogram small. If you're making a quilt block and you have a lot of words, you might want to use one of those. So I'm going to take font number 6, and I am going to put in, first I'm going to take a capital, and then I'm going to go to my lowercase, and I'm just going to put in Mini. Okay, so I have that there. Down here it says large, medium, or small. Now if I select one of these categories and I put in another letter and start writing, everything after that will be in the same appropriate size. Okay, I didn't put in a space, but that's okay. I'm going to delete. Over here you have delete. All right. Okay, so it says Mini there. Now we're going to come back in. We're going to put in a space and put in, whoops, because I had a selection bar in the middle. You see what it did? It just moved that right over. But that's not what I want right now. So I am going to come and I can delete. All right, I took it away. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to go return, but I better be at the end of this first. So I'm going to use these arrows, make it come to the end of the E. You use these to select where you need to remove a letter, add a letter, or go to the next line. So you just scroll through. This is your return key. So it drops it to the next line, all right? So I'm going to come in and put mouse. Helps if you know how to spell too. And I'm going to say set. Okay. I don't like using the functions on the very bottom screen there. I'll show you why. If I come up to edit and my Minnie Mouse is selected, it's all grouped together, right? It's just strange. It just always comes in, everything comes grouped together. So I can come down to here to my grouping icon and select them. Oh, I don't want to select them all. I just want to select the Minnie Mouse. Okay, say OK. And the strangest thing now, I have to come up here to ungroup. Now you see there's two red boxes, but they're still connected. The trick is you have to click off that anywhere on the screen. Once you click off, it disengages one from the other. All right? So now we're going to come, this is our text icon here. The reason I like this is because you have more functions to use. Instead of saying large, medium, and small now, it says size. I am going to click on the size, and now I can stretch it out bigger than it would have been for the large size. And I actually sewed these two out when I got my first Luminaire to see if it really did make it bigger. And you can see it's quite a bit bigger than the large we had picked out. Now I'm going to say okay. And now I've got mini big, and my mouse is kind of small, but that's okay. We're going to go array down here at the bottom. And it's going to ask me, do you want this in a straight shape? Do you want it in an arc, letters above or below the arc? I'm going to say this one first, the regular arc. It only takes one at a time. You can only do one word at a time. Down at the bottom, you have arrows pointing up and arrows pointing down. So you could make it more arced or less arced, however you want it. I'm going to come back and get, looks like a teeter-totter or saw. It's a diagonal line. Click on that one. Well, we don't read left to right, bottom to top. So what we're going to do, we are going to come down here, and there's a teeter-totter or an angled line and a straight line with an arrow pointing down to the right. Take the one with the arrow pointing down to the right and just hold it down, and it will completely reverse your letters and make them go horizontal or vertically. You get the idea? So you can make them go on a slant, you hold it down more, you can make them go completely vertical. I'm going to say okay. And I'm going to come back to array. You have to put it back to the straight line to work with it at all. If you have it on one of the shapes there, you can't do other things. So we're going to come back and put it on the straight shape. Now I have spacing. Do I want to spread out these words or make them closer together? So down here I have ABC with the arrows pointing out, and then I have ABC with the arrows pointing in. And it will just change my spacing. Down here sets it back to the original. I'm going to say okay. The last one is justify. Left justify or right justify. Okay, this guy's over too far now. That's why it's beeping at me. It's like you're at the end of the hoop. It's not going to work. And that's why it's beeping at me. So let's say set. And now we have all this lettering. Then again, we can select both parts of the lettering and use our alignment to make it completely aligned with mini. So I'm going to come to select all this time, okay, and then my alignment tool, and line them all up straight, and say okay. For this